Warning, I say a lot of bad jokes in this video. That's it. Viewers' discretion is advised.
Hello, young lady.
Today we're gonna talk about small, hairy, and screaming creatures who are with us in this game since 1995. Goats. I'm serious. First goat in the game was printed in Ice Age. They show up few times during game's history until Lorwyn block, which is amazing, basically starved them till they become 0-1 sacrifice fodder, and a joke about changelings being all goats. Until Ikoria gave us some actually fun goats, like whole 2 of them. And this is basic timeline of what happened to goats across the mountains of meta. But we are not talking about competitive format. We are talking about Commander, the casual haha funny singleton 100 card format. Let's check if goats are even fun. The conditions on the checklist are the same as last time. Let's recall. These conditions are recovery, evasion, critical mass, and synergy. And having a dedicated commander is, of course, a nice thing to have. Let's climb on the mountains and walk along the grazing goats and look how they play and if they fall off the cliff as they go. Planeswalkers of all kind, welcome to Terrible Tribes, the show where I review terrible tribes in the weirdest format of Magic the Gathering. Commander. Let's start with a commander with goat creature type, and their suits are nothing. There is no legendary goats, what is a little disappointing when crabs have a legendary creature. Goats can be found in colors red, green, and white. This color combination is also known as Naya, which has some fighting based commanders and some token based commanders, which will be relevant for goats, if we remember the timeline. Let's not over prepare for this hike and start with the first goat ever printed. Mountain Goat is a 1/1 goat for 1 red mana with Mountain Walk. That's it, nothing to hide. It's a 1/1 with evasion, one of the oldest as well, but I'm gonna say that reading its gather community comments could give brain damage to someone. Combos with Stone Giant. Okay buddy, what doesn't? The next card is... these look very similar. No, they are basically the same, with Zodiac Goat being more expensive and mostly available in Chinese version of Mountain Goat. Not even a version, it's just a copy with different name and the same abilities. For this thing we need to thank the amazing Portal 3 Kingdoms set. To simplify, let's just say it's a bizarre set. It gave us the most confusing in terms of lore, evasion ability, horsemanship, and I will go to the next card before I will go through the whole set. I will leave link to an article to it in the description. Read it after watching the video, or stop now and read it and then watch again. You're gonna have fun regardless. Capricopian is a 0/0 gold Hydra for X and 1 green mana with these effects. Capricopian enters the battlefield with X, +1/+1 counters on it. Pay 2 generic mana, put +1/+1 counter on Capricopian. Then you can reselect which player Capricopian attacks. Only the player Capricopian is attacking may activate this ability, and only during the declare attacker's step. Reminder, it can't attack its controller. You could just pay 1 green mana and make it die on the spot. But why would you do this? Just cast it for free to see your opponents playing ping pong with Angry Goat. It's one of the 2 Ikoria goats, released in Commander Precon. I also will mention that I did not notice that this card is also a Hydra during first, second and 7th reading of it. Technically, goats do not have a 2 mana creature, due to X being always counted as 0. It's related to converted mana cost shenanigans and stuff like this. Moving on, for the next creature, we're gonna need to look higher. Higher in the sky, we see Stormwind Capridor is a 1/3 bird goat for 2 generic and 1 white mana with flying and this ability. If non-combat damage would be dealt to Stormwind Capridor, prevent that damage. Put a +1/+1 counter on Stormwind Capridor for each 1 damage prevented this way. This is the second Ikoria goat that is slightly less interesting than the Ping Plonk Plonk Ping Pong goat. Its effect is invalidated absolutely by a certain commander. It gets 13 +1/+1 counters from Blasphemous Act and 10 from Kicked Urza's Rage, which you can cast yourself because more people would rather remove a creature with Murder or Damnation than use a burn spell. So stack up on some if you really want to run this, which is recommended actually, it's pretty good. Wild Colossus is a 2/2 goat beast for 2 generic and 1 red mana with haste. This one's pretty basic. It's a goblin hero that can slam into a wall the same turn it's casted. Do I need to say anything more? Huh, that was weird. If Wild Colossus looks like this, how Trained Colossus looks like, let's find out. Colossus Yearling is a 1/1 goat beast for 2 generic and 1 red mana with Mountain Walk and this effect. Pay 1 red mana, Colossus Yearling gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This effect is also known as Fire Breathing due to Aura with the same name and Shivan Dragon having the same ability. This goat gave up its haste for some landwalk and some charging effect. Pretty great, or in words of my great lad AverageMTGplayer.
Really? There's a goat with fire breathing?
Thriving Ibex, I don't know the word, is a 2/4 goat for 3 generic and 1 white mana with this effect. When Thriving Ibex enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters. Whenever Thriving Ibex attacks, you may pay 2 energy counters. If you do, put +1/+1 counter on it. This creature makes me remember GDC talk when Mark Rosewater was speaking about lessons he learned during his work on Magic the Gathering. The one that applies really well to this one is lesson 13.
Don't be afraid to be blunt. Artists tend to prefer subtlety. They're taught show, don't tell. But sometimes subtlety doesn't work. People can just miss the obvious.
This one brings some energy counters that you could use on it or Etherworks Marvel to try summon Ulagmog. Huh, at least it left counters. Ulagmog, here I come. Oh well, at least it's still technically an Eldrazi. I'm not even mad. Moving on. Battering Crackhorn is a 3/1 goat beast for 2 generic and 2 red mana with first strike, and it can be also flipped face up for 1 generic and 2 red mana after morphing, which costs 3 generic mana and placing the card face down. Important is that you can flip morphs face up at instant speed. There's element of surprise with any mechanic involving face down cards, no matter which one. Let's do a bad example of how this card could be used. Someone attacks you with, let's just say, Grizzly Bears, and you block with your face down morph to pay its cost to block with first striking Beast of a Goat. Also, morphs are nice safety net in case of mana screw, which happens to everyone every once in a while. Yeah, it's just okay. But let's consider who's gonna play Grizzly Bears in Commander beside Bear Force 1 memesters. Maybe I should change my mind. Not really. It's still just fine. Crested Craghorn is a 4/1 Beast Goat. Come on, why 4 of them are all Beast Goats? For 4 generic and 1 red mana with haste and this effect. Whenever this creature attacks, you may have target creature defending player controls untap and block if able. This one will not get any kindness, and I have reasons for it. Similar effect was later printed on an Eldrazi, which can force all creatures of blocking opponents to block. And it's colorless and it costs 8 generic mana. 6 if you know which Yugin to use. Run this anyway, you'll need all help you could get. Now it's time for, final creature with goat subtype. It's also pretty underrated. And it's Pathbreaker Ibex, which is a 3/3 goat for 4 generic and 2 green mana with this effect. Whenever Pathbreaker Ibex attacks, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Playing this game for a while, you probably heard about the glory of Craterhoof Behemoth. This card is a commander specific retrain that exchanges its instant impact for reusability. Let's separate this card from the shadow of Craterhoof and say that this effect is simply freaking rad. When it attacks, your opponents are grass and your creatures are fleet of lawnmowers. One thing I can say now is...
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
Hey, where are you taking them? There's some goat support, mostly from the middle part of the timeline, pushing the whole sacrifice goat motif, which I absolutely hate and it's absolutely to my dismay. Well, let's hope they are better than this crap. Yuck, disgusting. First card of this lineup of support is... Oh, I almost forgot. Some cards in the goat supports have black color identity, so add black to the list of colors you have seen before. Okay, let's go. Discordant Piper is a 2/1 zombie satyr for 1 generic and 1 black mana. Seems unrelated, wait for the effect, which is when Discordant Piper dies, create a 0/1 goat creature token. Kinda weird that this card isn't called Doomed Piper. In case of dice payoffs, Doomed Dissenter has a quiet, better effect. Run this at your own risk. Continuing with black colored support, we have Wolf Rider. It's a 3/2 horror for 2 generic and 1 black mana with these effects. There's like 3 of them. When Wolf Rider enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 white goat creature token. Sacrifice another creature, scry 1. Escape, pay 3 generic and 2 black mana, exile 4 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost. Wolf Strider escapes with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. It brings a goat with itself and you can sacrifice it for some information. I do not have all that much to say besides it looking like a freaking SCP. Oh, did you notice that there's a goat on this art? If you like it all that much, you could nearly infinitely recur it with some artifacts, Karn, and 5 mana to spare. If you really want to run black creatures in this deck, run this and Viscera Seer and you should be golden. I would not, and I would just go with Naya colors, thank you. Goat Napper is a 2/2 Goblin Roach for 2 generic and 1 red mana with this effect. When Goat Napper enters the battlefield, untap target goat and gain control of it until end of turn. It gains haste until end of turn. This is more of anti-support card for both goats and changelings, being an act of treason/aggression for them. Stapled onto a goblin hero. Fun fact, this card was released in Lorwyn when there was no goats released, but there were a few changelings. That's a really nice goat. Jumping into sorceries for one card, and that card is Goatnap. It's a sorcery for 2 generic and 1 red mana with this effect. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. If that creature is a goat, it also gets +3/+0 until end of turn. Act of Treason with damage boost if that creature is a goat for exact same mana cost. Sign me on, I will take Mutiny as well. And Mutiny is really good. Springjack Shepherd is a 1/2 Kifkin Wizard for 3 generic and 1 white mana with this effect. Chroma. When Springyard Shepherd enters the battlefield, create 0/1 goat creature token for each white mana symbol in mana costs of permanents you control. Chroma is an outdated mechanic that was basically murdered by Terrasayin's Devotion. I'm really bitter about it, especially when making 0/1 blockers with this ability is a bit pathetic comparing to what Devotion gets with its swarmers. Well, run it. It makes goats, especially helps with goat swarming, and it's pretty fine. I will skip Cloud Goat Ranger due to it not having anything to do with goat, beside one being in the art. And we reached final creature in this video. Cracklebrich Troll is an 8/8 troll for 3 generic and 2 black mana with trample, haste, and these abilities. When this creature enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 3 0/1 white goat creature tokens. At the beginning of the combat on your turn, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. If a player does, tap Cracklebrich Troll, you gain 3 life and you draw a card. I'm mixed on this one. Like I stated before, I want to forget any possible connotation between goats and color black, but the Breach Troll still can ignite that flame of memory, and it ignited it once more. It's an 8/8 with 2 good keywords, what's not to enjoy? Your opponent's 3 creatures is not an big issue, unless your opponent runs Victimize or plays completely different card game. The sacrifice effect of this thing would be trash, but since it replaces itself after first sacrifice by a card who doesn't want to lose quarter of their life under some bridge. I really like fairy tale theming of Throne of Eldraine. That's it. I also don't know which fairy tale it is. Moving on to artifacts that produces goats as one of its effects. Trading Post is an artifact for 4 generic mana with these effects. Pay 1 mana, tap it, and discard a card. You gain 4 life. Pay 1 mana, tap it, and pay 1 life. Create a 0/1 white creature token. That is a goat. Pay 1 mana, tap it, sacrifice a creature, return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. Pay 1 mana, tap it, and sacrifice the artifact, draw a card. It's 4 effects to be exact. I have heard about circular logic before, but I have never seen circular design until I have seen this card. Playing with this feels like playing Age of Empires 3. You know that there are better things. You know that some of these things are faster or more abusable. You just like the calm feeling of progress to curve stomp someone later. But not now. Now is the progress time. Slow, steady progress. How I like it. Animal Sanctuary is a land with these effects. Tap it. Add colorless mana. Tap it, pay 2 generic mana, put +1/+1 counter on target bird, cat, dog, goat, ox or snake. Ahies Forsaken Monument support, alongside with all lands producing colorless mana. Can you believe that people claimed that this card made colorless better than white? Me too. Instead of saying anything funny, I will just let you guess in comments how many of these creature types are gonna be seen in this series. Take a guess. Springjack Pasture is a land with these effects. Tap it, add colorless mana, pay 4 mana and tap it, create a 0/1 white goat creature token. Tap it, sacrifice X goats. Add X mana of any color, you gain X life. I'm disappointed that we end up with the card from the middle of the timeline. At least let's give its effects some attention. Maybe beside giving you colorless mana, and I just did. Good job me. Okay, paying 4 mana and tapping another land for 0/1 creature seems like a good way to spend your mana, am I right? And the third effect? Oh, it's time for these two to end their turn finally. Oh god, holy Richard Garfield, that's a lot of goats. This effect's gonna be handy right now. But before you will use this card this way, consider that you'll delete all your blockers and you'll basically open yourselves from attack from 3 different sides. Good job! I hope you have a good card in hand. Oh god. Well, that's all he wrote. I'm better now. I must check if the goats didn't eat my checklist. Oof, it's fine. Let's grade the goats on how competent and how fun they are. Recovery does not exist with goats. I'm serious. Big nay here. Evasion is mostly land-based with 1 flyer. For some variety, I will give them mixed link toward the Yea grade. Good job. Critical mass is split, as usual. Having creatures that can get pretty meaty, but tokens are weak and they're not that spammable. If they were, they would definitely get grade above mix, but they get mixed right now. Synergy exists, but in 100 card deck you will not feel it at all. I'm gonna give them nay here. A big nay. How we can improve goats? It's not that hard. We have 2 clear paths to lane on. For the first one, give them some more goats with trample, goats with fire breathing. On the second path, maybe a Krankos Coral that will spam goats, and a dog that could fetch goat and sheep, and changing that could basically be a goat for our intents and purposes, which they all are. What am I even saying? I'm gonna give them an award, a grassy field to graze on. They deserve it. They came through so far. I really like them, unlike some. Goats are what happens when 2 completely incompatible ideas need to coexist in the same design space, and both suffer to lack of space. I hope they will climb higher, and I believe they will have a brighter future on both paths. Only bad thing that could happen right now is taking no road. Ladies and gentlemen, planeswalkers of all kind, thank you for watching. I deeply recommend subscribing and sending me terrible tribes to review. I'm Math of Special MTG, and I hope we meet again.